Manish Tomar, yeah.
Yeah, 20 of them. So, should we start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Uh, Welcome to all of you. A very warm welcome, and wish you all a happy new year after this last years of pandemic, and of course, still more time before the pandemic is subsided. But we welcome you all. This is a unique step taken out by MEAI in conducting this on for people who are interested to actually get recognized competent person status for this new Indian Mineral Industry Code that has been developed and recognized by CRISCO, which recognizes all the other major codes that has been followed in major countries like Australia, where JORC is followed, SAMREC in South Africa, etc. Now, it's a privilege to be a recognized competent person in India under the IMIC, and the IMIC is also going for reciprocal membership. Talks have been initiated with KCMI of Indonesia. Now, it's very nice that you are the first batch which have joined this. And it's very nice that you have taken this initiative to join this course. I request Dr. Shrikant uh, to kindly inaugurate this session. Dr. Shrikant, please.
Thank you very much, Guna. And again, thank you for saying a few words about this course. As Guna has mentioned, this is a very important first step, and really starting a program like this in the beginning of the year is a big plus for all of us. It is indeed a pleasure to see so many of you joining in this course, even though the notification for the course was sent out in December. But I know that actual notices to all of you were received rather late, but still so many of you have joined. We have people who have joined in from DMT Consulting, from Tata Steel, from Vedanta, from MSPL, even other private consultants have joined, and we have one person who's joined in from Deccan Gold. Welcome to all of you. It is, like I said, it is the first step on this journey towards becoming an RCP, a recognized competent person under NACRI, and it's an essential part. And when I first became a recognized competent person in the US, we did not have a training program. The training program came in later. And this, I think, is unique for the members of CRISCO, that the recognized competent person training is taking place before actually getting all the people on board. So again, welcome to all of you. And in this new year, we're a little short on time today, but we'll try and cover. We have a lot of things to cover. We'll try and cover that today. I would like to start with a short presentation about what this course actually is. And here's what the course actually is doing for us: the professional development course on the Indian Mineral Industry Code, IMIC. Okay. So what this course is doing is providing an introduction to the code. And this code was developed by a group of professionals, mineral industry professionals, geologists, mining engineers, metallurgists, all of us got together, about 16 of us got together, and we started this journey. And when we wanted to become a part of Crisco, we wanted to develop our own Indian Mineral Industry Code. So we developed that based on the codes that were already available in different countries. Okay, so we developed that. One of the requirements of the code is that we should have a group of recognized competent persons who are actually certifying these resource and reserve reports, and under the aegis of the National Committee for the Reporting of Mineral Resources and Reserves in India, which is the acronym for that is NACRI. The course is 24 hours of instruction on the contents of IMIC. 8 hours is set aside for evaluation, and we'll be doing that in 2-hour sessions every week. And then 8 hours of best practices presentations from experts, how they took decisions, how they got information, and how they created their reports. So we have 8 hours of that. Total is 40 hours spread over 4 weeks. We're starting today, and then we will end on the 29th of January. The presenters are all qualified and experienced mineral industry professionals, and all of them have been associated with the development of IMIC in different stages, different portions based on their experience. We're all founding members, founding recognized competent persons, and we're all life members of the Mining Engineers Association of India, as well as other professional organizations. I was mentioning to my colleagues that I have the unique qualification that I was a founding member of the registered member program in the Society of Mining Engineers in the US, and I happen to be a founding member for the NACRI as well, or the recognized competent person for NACRI as well. So I'm pleased to be able to present some of this material to you based on my experience. So here are the topics that we are going to cover in the next few weeks. Okay, today we're going to cover these things: introduction to MEI, NACRI, and IMIC, and the code of ethics. The scope of IMIC and reporting terminology will also be covered. We will talk about competence and responsibilities. We'll talk about reporting of exploration targets and results, including coal, reporting of mineral resources, including for coal, and then reporting of mineral reserves. There are several things that are related to the technical studies that are performed under IMIC and under the guidance of IMIC, and several tables and appendices, again, which contain a lot of information, which are useful for preparing the mineral resource and reserve statements and for creating the reports. So all in all, we're going to go through the entire code, and the code will be presented to you, like I said, by the experienced professionals who have dealt with similar reports and similar codes. So those are the people who will be presenting these things to you. The schedule, like I said, all the meetings will be held using the Zoom platform, and I'm happy that we were finally able to get everybody into the Zoom meeting today. I know that we started off with a little hiccup, people not able to join in, but I think now we've got everybody in. Mondays and Wednesdays, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. is when we'll have the lectures on different sections of IMIC. On Fridays, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., we'll have two 1-hour lectures on best practices in different aspects. So we'll have best practices in report writing and geotechnical engineering this week, for example. So like that, we'll talk about best practices, how best to address the requirements of the RCPs, okay? Then Fridays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., we will have an evaluation and assessment session. And these, I mean, mostly there'll be multiple choice questions, but there will also be some, places where you will need to write long answers. Uh, it's all open book. It's not that, we're trying to trick you into the evaluation assessment. It's just a way to gauge that, yes, you have gone through the material that has been provided to you and are familiar with that material. Okay. So again, the 2 hour slots that we have every week, it's quite extensive, and the testing, the evaluation system, we are still getting it into place, and we'll try and make sure that it is a fun and learning experience for everybody. These are some things that I would like to request from all the participants. Attendance on all days is mandatory. So if you're not able to attend on any particular day, it's going to become difficult. So what I would suggest is, if you're not able to attend on any particular day, just let me know. The recordings of the sessions will be available, and I can only share it with those people who are not able to participate for any specific reason. Okay, but please let me know in advance. It makes my life a little easier. Okay, in these sessions, the sessions are being presented to you by experienced persons, but I'm looking at the participants, and wow, the range of participants that we have in this particular group is fantastic. All of you have had tremendous amount of experience in the field, working with exploration programs, working with designs, working with reporting of resources and reserves under different categories, under different classifications, and under different systems. So all of you, I mean, what I would suggest is that, let's make it a co-learning experience. We will present to you, our presenters will present to you the basics of the code itself, but your experiences are very, very valuable when we get to discussions on, applications of the code. However, in the interest of time, we cannot run off and go off on a tangent talking about project-specific questions, or lengthy discussions about what happened at a particular project. So let's try and complete this program on time as far as possible. And I will be moderating almost all the sessions, so I will be there to make sure that the chats and the questions are properly assessed and taken care of. The assessment is part of the requirements for the RCP. Okay, all participants must take the assessment. Unless you have cleared the assessment, I cannot pass it on to the certification committee saying that, yes, this person has attended the classes, the course, attended all days, all sections of the course, and has taken the assessment on a weekly basis. So these are the things that are required to qualify the participants for the RCP certification. So let's just make sure that we follow these rules. The other thing that I would like to mention is that you feel free and connect with me on Gmail, on my email address, or on WhatsApp, or just give me a call, and we'll try and figure out how to address some of these specific issues that you may have. I'm not an expert on the entire IMIC, nor am I an expert in all aspects of exploration. But within this group, we'll have somebody who is knowledgeable enough to take up your assessment. Okay. I have already sent this soft copy of IMIC to all of you, and this is for reference during this discussion that we have. The text within the presentations is mostly from IMIC. The hard copy of the IMIC is going to be sent to you shortly. I mean, I've got all the addresses today, so I'll make sure that we send out the hard copies to you for your reference. I would suggest, if you have not yet sent me an email giving me your mailing address, please do so at the earliest so that we can mail the rest of the documents to you. Within the IMIC, there are three kinds of fonts that we have used to separate different items. Okay. So, and as we go through this, you'll recognize these things. All definitions are in the bold font. The code itself is in standard font, and any guidance provided for use of the code is provided in italics. Okay. I'm going to I'm going to and put the slide up because I just love the way we are doing this. Let's try and enjoy the course. It's going to be learning experience for all of us. We're going to learn together, and none of us is so much of an expert that we cannot learn something from somebody else. So let's make sure that we do that. And most important, let's enjoy the course. It's not only for seriousness, it is to help each other, connect with each other, and make sure that we connect so that when we need help, we know where to go to and who to call for help from. Okay. So with that, with those few words, I would like to invite all of you to participate and enjoy this course. We were expecting to have Dr. P.V. Rao, the co-chair of NACRI, to present the next section, but unfortunately he is away on some urgent family business. He's unable to join us. He sends his greetings to you, and I know that he will join us possibly in the second or third week of the program. Okay.
Yeah, Shrikant, I
Yes,
think Debolina from Geo Valley, she is unable to join. Can you send her the link?
sure, I'll do that. Yes, sir.
Shrikant, Devolina is here, so she's taking she's also sharing the screen with me. But
Okay.
it would be good if Shrikant, if Devolina can get her own link, that will be great.
Okay, Debolina has not registered for this program yet, Biplab. So
now registered.
She's now registered. Okay. Okay.
You have registered, isn't it?
Yes. But I don't get any confirmation mail from them.
Yeah, she's got a confirmation mail as well, Shrikant. But no, I mean, go ahead with the program. I don't want to disrupt others in this thing. Just to,
right. So Debolina, just go ahead and share the screen with Biplab, and I'll get you as soon as my lecture's over. I'll try and have you join the course. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And thanks, Biplab. Biplab, nice to see you on this program. And really, we were very happy to see that you were also joining in.
Nice to see you all. I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. Very excited. Yes, it's a great start. Good luck. Okay, looking forward to it.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So this is the first program that we had, first presentation. I'm going to start the next presentation. Let me see. Okay. Just give me a minute while I start the next presentation. Okay, where did we go? Okay, somehow I'm not getting my screen up. Okay, now we're ready. Okay, so this is a presentation that is prepared by Dr. P.V. Rao, and he really wanted to present it. I've heard him present this a number of times, and it's always exciting to hear about this. I mean, it basically presents the journey that has brought us to where we are today. Okay. So it's basically the introduction to the Mining Engineers Association of India, NACRI, and the CRISCO, and the relationships between the three. Many of you are already life members of the MEAI, so I'm not going to. You may get a little bored about what we are presenting on MEAI, but bear with us for those who are not yet life members of MEAI. Okay. So again, I've started this with a disclaimer. Basically making sure that we are, we keep this in context, in the proper context. The particulars presented within this presentation are cited from IMIC 2019, the NACRI Code of Ethics, the NACRI Charter 2019, and the MEAI Bylaws 2018, and our other and any other published material. It's all presented based on the published material. The presenter is in no way accountable for any losses or damages that may be sustained by the RCPs or their clients due to acceptance of the material presented here. The IMIC practitioners or RCPs may refer to the original documents for detailed and exact appreciation of the subject matter. Now, I know this sounds daunting, but please remember that we are trying to present this material to the best of our ability. There may be, but the final say really is the original documents, and the interpretation of that can be discussed, individually. All right. So let's start about the Mining Engineers Association of India. What is it? Founded in 1957 by N.S. Clare and fellow mining engineers in the Keonjhar belt, the metal mining belt of Orissa and Bihar. Registered in 1965 as the Mining Engineers Metalliferous Association. The Barbil Rangta House was the registered office, and registered under the Trade Union Act 1926. In 1975, in order to expand its scope, the title was changed to Mining Engineers Association of India. So from 57 to 75, it ran as the Mining Engineers Association, Metalliferous Association. Then in 1981, we registered it under the Societies Registration Act of 1860 at Cuttack, and registered office remained at Rangta House in Barbil. Currently the office is in Hyderabad, and I'll show you where it is. The office bearer, the main office bearers include the president, the three vice presidents representing, so 4 regions are covered in this: north, south, east, and west. The president would be from one region, and then the 3 vice presidents, one after another. Each one represents one region, and one by one they get a chance to be the next president. We also have a Secretary General who sits in the office in Hyderabad, and we have a Joint Secretary come Treasurer. So this is the organization of MEAI. We're trying to grow the organization to include many of the other activities that are there. We're trying to make sure that we have people to take care of these things. Headquarters right now, national headquarters is in Hyderabad, like I said. And we have a total of 26 chapters around the country, and you can see in the map that they're all listed here. Widespread, it's really all over the country. We have these chapters. We have 9 categories of members: the annual members, student, provisional, life, fellow, honorary, institutional, life institutional, and now the latest category, that is the registered competent person. This new category of membership allows the members, the senior members, to sign off on resources and reserves, and that is what this entire program is all about. The official organ for MEAI is a journal. It's a very fine journal that is now being published every month, and it is sent by email. A soft copy is sent to you by email, and if you so desire, a hard copy can also be sent to you, but only if you so require it. So we are trying to be green as well. The official website, meai.org, and then, of course, the telephone numbers. Much of this information you will get from the magazines, and you will get this from the website itself. So I'm not going to dwell more on this. So when MEI started, and as we have progressed in handling the requirements of the mineral industry, here are the objects of the MEI: to protect the interest of mineral industry professionals. Okay, very important. To promote technical education in mining engineering and other allied earth sciences. As you know, we don't have regular qualifying exams like other disciplines. Education, the growth in technology is such that we do need to update ourselves regularly. So MEI promotes that through webinars, seminars, and many other activities like that. Okay. Then, there are several legislations which are relevant to the mining industry, and we're like a watchdog, making sure that we understand how those legislations affect the industry and the development of the country, and it voices the collective views of the members. So very often you will get messages saying that, okay, this is the legislation proposed, this is the draft legislation. Let's bring out comments based on experience of the different members. Important to build a harmonious relationship between the members and mine management and government authorities and labor organizations. So this, again, mutual understanding the key issues is what MEI tries to do. To obtain representation of the association on various policy formulating bodies. And we have been very, very active as MEI. We've been very, very active in Niti Aayog and in the ministry and at the state level, different organizations as well, trying to make sure that the interests of the industry are put in front. Okay. Very often we have agencies that are formulating policies with little input from technical personnel, and we try to make sure that that happens. We also try to promote art, science, and technology of mining and allied professions in the mining industry, and primarily through outreach programs. To participate in the health, welfare, and socioeconomic activities in the mining and mineral industry as well. So making sure that we look after not only ourselves, all the members, but also the surrounding communities, making sure that we make an impact there. Okay. What about NACRI? NACRI, the acronym for National Committee for Reporting of Mineral Resources and Reserves in India. And the NACRI charter, which again you'll all be getting a copy of, has all these articles. We call them clauses now, but the articles include the name, the role of NACRI, basically to promote professional competency. And we'll talk about that in the competence and responsibility section. The code of ethics and related issues, and the registration of competent persons. That is what we are trying to do here, in this short course. Article 3 deals with the admission, retention, and removal of members. Again, one of the primary motivators of CRISCO, or parts of CRISCO, has been to make sure that a certain code of ethics is followed by the members, by making sure that we have a code of ethics that in case somebody willfully violates or misrepresents information, that there is some recourse for that. And we'll go through that as we talk about CRISCO also. We'll go through some of the requirements. Okay. Here's the composition of NACRI. NACRI basically has the independent government and mineral industry nominated domain experts. We have supporting organizations, We have leading exploration company, leading mining companies and professional organizations. All these this is how the core of NACRI is formed, making sure that NACRI itself is capable of presenting and supporting the requirements of the mineral industry in India. The organization and structure of NACRI includes the NACRI Management Committee, the NMC, the NACRI co-chairs, the two of them always, the appointment of NACRI committees for various activities, including this one, for example, the Professional Development Committee was formed so that we could have continuous professional development and improvement of all the members who require or want to be RCPs. Relationships with the POs, that is, Abani, can you help me out? What is the meaning of POs?
PO basically is the professional organization, but in this case, this is actually a professional organization recognized by CRISCO.
Yes. So thank you very much, Abani. I just wanted to have all of you listen to another voice as well. Abani is Dr. Abani Samal. He is currently in USA. He resides in USA, and he was a co-chair of NACRI along with Dr. P.V. Rao. And it is now late in the night for him, but he is committed enough to come and be with us for these presentations. NACRI representation in CRISCO, we always have two representatives from NACRI who will be attending the meetings at CRISCO. And then the article also deals with the resignation of NMC members and management of the funds that NACRI generates. Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8, quite straightforward amendments to the NACRI charter. The rules for the membership of CRISCO, and then amendments to IMIC, how they are governed, how they are undertaken, and how, in case we need to dissolve NACRI, then, even that is covered under the charter. The current structure of, the approved structure of NACRI has two co-chairs. It has a management committee, with two participating organizations nominees and two domain experts. Then the NACRI membership has a maximum of 30. The total membership is a maximum of 30 people. And these 30 people include nominees from the participating organizations and domain experts and various other people who are nominated by different areas, the supporting professional organizations, the leading mining companies, exploration companies, and so on. The idea, again, is to make sure that the committee itself is strong enough to address the needs of the country. The charter itself allows for integrating different sectors of the mineral industry into this NACRI structure. Okay, so let's come to CRISCO. And CRISCO, this is why it started. And most things, this is like a lock being created after a door has been broken down, right? So 1960s, some unacceptable reporting practices called the Poseidon nickel boom and bust. A lot of people lost their everything because of what was going on in Australia. The Australian stock exchanges responded to this Poseidon boom and bust with a proposal to self-regulate, resulting in the Joint Ore Reserves Committee in Australia, established in 1971. In 1989, JORC released the first version of the JORC code, which really defined everything, put it straightforward, what to call, different aspects of mineral resources and reserves. In the 1930s, a US reporting code was derived from Hoover's work and published by initially published by the US Geological Survey, and it is now called the SEC Industry Guide 7. These two are primary, and then a lot of innovations and not innovations, but improvements and enhancements have been done on these two codes. In 1990s, I don't know how many of you were aware of this, are aware of the BRIEX affair, and I was closely associated with some of the people who were handling the business of BRIEX, and really, I mean, it left a tremendous impact on the mining industry worldwide, and basically resulted in re-examination by the regulatory bodies about how people are reporting resources and reserves, because suddenly we realized that the casual investor, this man on the street, is also getting drawn in to this, high risk, high gain kind of games of the mining, of the mineral industry. And, the regulatory bodies just wanted to make sure that the casual investors' rights and interests are protected. So after that, after the BRIEX affair is when the Canadian stock exchanges decided that no, we've had enough. We need to control what reports are being published to all the people who are participating in this in the stock markets. And the National Instrument 43101 is the result of that, and very stringent laws and very stringent controls and very finely tuned definitions and codes which govern the basic tenets of reporting of resources and reserves. So, what does CRISCO stand for? It's not really an acronym, but it stands for the Committee for Mineral Resources and Reserves International Reporting Standards. Okay, so that's what it stands for, and the purpose is again to make sure that we protect the interests of the casual investor. The mining companies listed on the global stock exchanges account for more than 80% of the listed capital of the mining industry. Okay, and these, it's very, very easy for somebody. It was very, very easy for somebody to make a false statement and make tremendous amount of money on that stock exchanges. So basically, CRISCO got recognized by the International Accounting Standards Board, the UN Economic Commission for Europe, and the International Council of Mining and Metals as the key international organization representing the mining industry on issues relating to the classification and reporting of mineral assets. And what this basically means is that we cannot, CRISCO decided that, okay, we have controls that make sure that all reports of mineral assets follow a certain very diligent standard, okay, and is reported by people who are qualified, experienced, as well as held to a code of ethics, so that in case they misrepresent or misinterpret the information for personal gain, they can be taken to task. So here's the CRISCO worldwide membership as on September 2019, and we in India, we became part of CRISCO in 2019. In August, that's when we got our code approved, and we got a letter from CRISCO saying that yes, we are now officially a part of CRISCO. As you can see, a large part of the world is governed by or is a part of CRISCO. There are large parts of the world which are still white, especially in Africa and in, of course, in Asia, Northern Asia as well. Now, it's not that these countries do not have regulation. What many companies are doing is when you work in a country that does not have it's not part of Crisco, still reports are created or prepared in accordance to one of the codes that are available, and most popular of them are JORC and NI 43101. Okay, these codes are all approved, by Crisco, which means that they're all, and each member or each of these member countries has an opportunity to review the code and make sure that there's nothing in that code that goes against or contra to either the Crisco principles or the code that's been written for their particular countries. So our NACRI code, the IMIC, was basically reviewed by Crisco, and all the members had a chance to comment on it, and then finally approved it. And right now we are in the process of adding more countries to Crisco, and we'll talk more about that as we proceed in the course. These are some of the things that Crisco does. It sets the minimum standards for public reporting of exploration results, mineral resources, and reserves. It provides and maintains a mandatory system of classification of tonnage and grade estimates based on the geologic confidence and techno-economic considerations. So it is, if you look at it, all the aspects of the Crisco template address all aspects of identifying a mineral deposit, okay, and identifying the value of a mineral deposit. Okay, so what it does, it provides definitions for mineral resource and ore reserve classes that are compatible with international agreements. All these codes agree to a certain definition of these mineral resources and reserves. Again, these are classified based on actual data, actual information. The amount of speculation that could go on about mineral resources has been tried. We tried to reduce it through this Crisco, the Crisco template. Crisco requires public reports to be based on works done by a competent person, and it describes the minimum qualifications and the type of experience required to be a competent person. So I know many of the participants of today's course, they've sent me their background, their qualification, as a requirement for this course. No, it was not required for the course. The course is open to everybody, but in case you want to be classified as a registered competent person, then you need to show the minimum qualifications and experience to be able to be classified as the competent person. The Crisco also provides extensive guidelines on the criteria to be considered when we prepare such reports. Okay, reports on exploration results, mineral resources, and mineral reserves. The idea is that when you prepare a report that a layperson reads, the definitions are such and the layout of the report is such that there's little chance for him to miss any critical information, and he is also the layperson is able to be guided by the experience of the registered competent person, somebody who is willing to put his signature on a document and say, okay, I certify based on my qualifications and experience what the reserve or resource is, or what the exploration results mean, and what kind of risk are you taking are you likely to take when you make an investment in this company? What CRISCO doesn't do, on the other hand, it does not regulate the procedures used by competent persons to estimate and classify mineral resources. It's all principle-based. So just because you're an RCP doesn't mean that, CRISCO is going to tell you exactly what to do and how to do. CRISCO has a very simple system. CRISCO says that the CRISCO system says that, okay, you should be able to stand up in front of your peers and defend the methodology that you have used to come up with the mineral resources and ore reserves. Okay. It does not regulate the company's internal classification or internal reporting systems. So, a company internally can base it on investment decisions based on an internal classification or reporting system, and that is completely different. CRISCO does not care about that. However, CRISCO is very, very clear that the casual investor is not affected by any false reporting, or not false reporting, but any report that can be misconstrued. Okay. It does not deal with breaches of conduct or breaches of code of companies and code of the code by companies. Okay, the stock exchanges are the ones that are responsible for making sure that there are no breaches of the code by the companies. And again, it does not deal with the breaches committed by the competent person. If a competent person, makes a mistake or deliberately falsifies documents, there is the code of ethics that all RCPs are required to adhere to as part of the professional organization. So, for example, in the Mining Engineers Association of India, the code of ethics is prepared and presented, and I will be presenting that to you shortly. And all of us competent persons will have to adhere to that code of ethics. And there's a procedure for filing complaints against a person, and how those complaints are dealt with. We'll deal with that in the next presentation in a few minutes. What the benefits are for the CRISCO compliant codes: it promotes best practices, makes sure that the latest and most appropriate technologies are used. Use a common language so that all persons are aware of what is being talked about. There is no, you cannot have one person saying that a reserve is something and then somebody else saying that no, reserve also includes resources. Just making sure that there's a common language. And the concepts are very, very clear. We make sure that the concepts that are followed in defining these resources and reserves are very, very clear to everybody. They're useful for comparatives for transactions, projects, and mines, so that you can take an assessment of how does it compare with that other project, and then help you take a decision. The non-technical professionals can also understand it. The language is simple, clear, and to the point. There is no flowery or language that can be misinterpreted. CRISCO codes are a basis for valuation. So based on the report, it's easy for somebody to quickly assess what the value of a particular project is. It provides a guidance to competent persons so that there's a checklist that you can follow. There's a standard that you can follow, and there are people that you can connect with to make sure that you are not making gross errors. Okay. There's a lot of self-regulation in CRISCO, which basically means that we're relying on the competence as well as the ethics of the person who's writing the reports. Okay, and there's an accountability added to it because now once a report is written, if there is if somebody has misrepresented something, then the person who has signed the report is accountable, and he or she can be taken to court if required. Okay, if it comes to that. The basic thing for all this is mitigating risk, making sure that the risk associated with mineral resources and reserves is clearly mentioned, and the ways to mitigate that risk are also mentioned in the reports, so that what has been done, what needs to be done further is clearly mentioned. Okay. The CRISCO, NACRI, and MEAI relationship is the next thing we want to talk about. And you can see, let's start with MEAI, the Mining Engineers Association of India. That is what we call the participating or professional organization in India. Right now, it is the only professional organization recognized by CRISCO in India. There are others that are on the way, and I know that they will have their approvals soon. And what this MEAI does is that it has the Registered Competent Person program and the professional development programs associated with that. And it has the code of ethics, which all members, all RCPs are required to adhere to. Along with that, along with the rest of the charter for the Mining Engineers Association, NACRI is the national reporting organization in India, and which basically means that all professional organizations have a direct relationship with NACRI. So if another organization, say for example MGMI or SGAT, they want to join and be recognized by CRISCO, they will first go through NACRI, make sure that they adhere to the NACRI charter, and and be part of NACRI in that way. The NACRI is also in charge of maintaining and updating IMIC from time to time. IMIC is the Indian Mineral Industry Code. NACRI is the one that is now a part of CRISCO. CRISCO has the executive body containing a chairperson, a past chairperson, a deputy chair, secretary, and treasurer. And then along with that, the CRISCO is made up of 2 representatives from each of the national reporting organizations. So NACRI is a national reporting organization, and we have 2 representatives from NACRI who are a part of CRISCO. And what CRISCO does is prepares and maintains the template and distributes the template to all the national reporting organizations. CRISCO also approves the national reporting organization and the professional organizations in each country. Looks after and approves the national code. So for example, our IMIC is approved by CRISCO, and it also approves the code of ethics of each of the professional organizations. Okay, so when we got our documents back from CRISCO in August last year, August 2019, we got 3 documents. One was the Indian Mineral Industry Code, which was corrected or approved by CRISCO. We got the NACRI charter that was approved by CRISCO, and we also got the code of ethics that was approved by CRISCO. The code of ethics being a part of the MEAI. Okay. So that is the relationship between the 3 organizations. And so right now what we're trying to do is, NACRI is the body that is preparing and presenting this course. MEAI is the organ that we're using for disseminating this information. And then, of course, we're all trying to get qualified as registered competent persons. Okay, I'll take a brief 2-minute break, and then we'll get back to the code of ethics. That's the next important thing that I need to present. I know that we are running about 7 minutes behind time, so I would request you to bear with me. Take a quick bio break if you want, and then we'll start back at 3:05. Okay, it's now 3:02 on my watch, so 3:05 will start again. Okay. In the meantime, if any of you have any questions on what you have heard so far, please feel free and ask. Unmute yourself and then ask the questions.
Or they can also put it in the chat box.
Or you can put it in the chat box if you desire.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes, go ahead, please.
I'm Ravinder Kumar Jain.
Yes, sir.
A competent person approved by Ministry of Coal or Ministry of Mines?
The registered competent person is actually approved by NACRI, by the National Committee for Reporting of Resources and Reserves in India. Okay, it is not a government body. It is not a government approval. The RQPs of the past, including certified by IBM, is not what we're trying to do here. What we're doing is making sure that we follow the guidelines prepared by CRISCO for competence. Okay, so it has nothing to do with any of the ministries.
Shrikant, can you also look into the people who are unable to join? Look at the chat box.
Oh, I have 29 people joined already. Okay, Ravichandra Gaud is not able to join. Okay, let me see. Yeah, let me take a look at that.
Shrikant, do we have a special session on RCP? I don't think we have, right?
Yes, we do actually. In competence and responsibility, we have a session.
Oh, that one actually, just after mine.
Just after yours. Okay. Just after yours.
Very relevant question. What RCP is the scope?
Yes.
Because it's new to India.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Any other questions? Depolina Banerjee. Depolina, when did you register for this course?
Good afternoon, Dr. Shrikant.
Yes.
This is Karishka Dutta.
Yes. Tell me.
From what you have told us in answer to the question from the first participant who questioned that this CRISCO certification has nothing to do with government bodies.
Yes.
So do I take it that the competent persons recognized by from this organization would not be eligible for preparation of mine plans of IBM?
Currently, no. But we are in discussion with the Ministry of Mines. We are having discussions with IBM also. we are hoping that at some stage, the RQP or the erstwhile RQP of IBM and the RCPs that we are classifying under NACRI, there is some overlap or some link between the two. But again, we just have to wait and see how things develop between NACRI and the Ministry of Mines. Okay, so as of now, if you're talking right away, no, there is no link between the two. But we're hoping that things will develop as time passes. Abani, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I think also in the scope of IMIC, I'll be talking a little bit about that. The thing is, in India, actually, we are used to this IBM kind of prescribed qualifications and qualified person registration and stuff, which is really non-existent right now for last few years. It's too early to talk about what the discussion going on with the ministry. However, the scope of these RCPs, what they can do in coming, hopefully months, if not years, is much bigger than what the IBM certified qualified person could do. It's first time that RCP will be like internationally recognized competent person. So it's in India, this is the first batch of people. They will be recognized in another country too. That is much. There is a lot more actually to add to that. But I think when that session comes, we'll be discussing a lot more about that. I guess I just leave there, Srikanth, for the right session to come.
Okay, great. Thanks for that additional information from you. Thank you.
Dr. Srikanth, Ashok.
Yes, sir. Tell me.
Just a small addition. Being the Indian Mineral Industry Code, we are missing the GSI MECL on board.
I won't say I won't say we are missing them. I won't say we are missing them because I know that some people from MECL are actually watching this program live on YouTube. GSI, I'm not sure how many people from GSI are watching this program also. The thing is that, our attempt has been to integrate with the government agencies as well. And, making sure that we move everybody together at the same time, right? Does it happen immediately? No, we can't make that happen immediately. Okay.
Right. It was just general.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Dr. Srikanth, this was Dr. Rao, right? Ashok
Yes.
Rao.
Yeah.
Yeah, the government agencies you named, I think there are two things, two parts of your question or query. One, are they aware of it? Second, do they have a chair in the NACRI? The first part for sure, the second part for sure too. And why they are not there, that's a whole different question. I don't think this is the right forum to ask, but they are aware and there is continuous discussion. I think it's uninterrupted from day one when we started 6 years ago. They're all aware. When we talk about ministry, we talk about all the agencies and their wings.
I think it's a whole lot different discussion to have the government entities as a part of our government entities of forcing them or enforcing them to report the same way as RCP and NACRI would do. it's a completely different discussion probably. And whether they need it at all or not, whether the charter allows them, charter should allow them or not, all these things are a completely different discussion. We can have it later on, but yeah.
I think this is one of those discussions that is best done in a club.
Yes, indeed. So next time when we meet Shrikant in Kharagpur or in Hyderabad, certainly we will get a sponsorship from MEI on your beer.
And also, Biplab, it's worth mentioning to the attendees here, in recent past, I think in last few months, thanks to COVID, I guess, we were present, or many of us are present in multiple online discussions or virtual meetings. I believe some of the recordings are also available on YouTube, in addressing part of that question. But I think, Srikant, we need to move on here. I have a presentation after that, a couple of hours.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a second.
So if I can squeeze in one particular thought.
Yeah.
People have been questioning about, recognized qualified person of IBM and this. The purposes are completely different. And now, the recognized qualified person is there to prepare statutory reports as per the government guidelines. The purpose of IMIC is, if you're aware of what a JOC compliant report does, or NI 401, these things do is to protect the casual investors, to prepare as a competent person the resource statement or reserve statement or the valuation of the property, whatever it is, to help the investors to understand and take the risks accordingly. That is the main purpose. Now, essentially, I mean, in future, of course, as Dr. Srikant said, all of them trying to get merged. There is a big possibility, but it's in the pipeline.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that additional insight, Guna. And like I said, discussions are on with the government agencies, with different companies and agencies as well, trying to make sure that we move forward with everyone. Okay. So let's start with the next session, and basically it's the code of ethics applicable to the registered competent person. And these are the rules by which, all of us will be governed when we sign up as an RCP. Okay, move forward, please. Yeah. Okay, the code of ethics. And here's where the code of ethics comes in. It is part of the MEAI bylaws as such. Okay. The Memorandum of Association, Article 4.11 and Rule 4.5 are basically where these discussions are held. NACRI Article 2.3, the Code of Ethics and Related Issues. NACRI shall be responsible to develop the Code of Ethics documents for professional organizations. We've done that, and MEAI has adopted that Code of Ethics as part of its membership categories. The IMIC Clause 9 says that the RCP definition, the RPO has an enforceable disciplinary process that includes the power to suspend or expel a member that is a requirement, and that's incorporated into the IMIC. So when you define, and we'll go through these definitions later, but when we define the RCP in such a way that the professional organization has an enforceable disciplinary process, then we are basically adhering to that code of ethic. Okay. Oops, sorry. Appendix 2 of the MEAI bylaws, again, you'll be getting a copy of these bylaws as well for reference, has 3 parts to it. It has the code of ethics, it has the complaints and ethics committees, and it has the complaints handling and redressal system. Okay. So all this is included in the codes that we are talking about. The code of ethics applicable to an RCP, and here is where it's required for us to understand exactly what we're trying to do. Premier responsibility and uppermost duty of RCPs shall at all times be the welfare, health, and safety of the community. And it does not mean the community of people who are making the investment. No, it means the entire community, everybody around us. RCPs shall act to uphold and enhance the honor, integrity, and dignity of the profession. Okay. So again, we're trying to make sure that we act in a professional way. RCPs shall work and report only in their areas of competence, which again basically defines that, you know, as primarily a geotechnical engineer and a mining engineer, I will not state that, you know, I have competence in geology. I may work in geology under the guidance of another RCP or use the services of another RCP in geology, but I will not I will not classify myself as a competent person in geology. RCP shall build their professional reputation on merit and shall not indulge in any unfair competition. So if, say, if 2 RCPs are there, you know, not by undercutting or by any other unfair means, try and gain a project, but basically use their professional reputation to gain those projects. RCPs shall apply their skill and knowledge with complete professional integrity while working for their employer or client. And again, this makes sure that the best practices are followed, the best information is followed. We follow the principles of materiality, transparency, and you know, competence. Okay, so that's a very important portion of the RCP's work. Next items, we could see the RCP shall provide evidence, express opinion, and make statements in an objective and truthful manner based on adequate knowledge. Okay, so again, you know, no speculation. And if you're, you know, there's no question that without evidence, we will not express an opinion. Okay, so trying to make sure that we control the way we work in a professional way. RCPs shall pursue professional development throughout their careers and shall actively assist and encourage those under their direction to advance their knowledge and experience. And this is what we're trying to do here, is first develop our own selves, get that professional development done. But that's not adequate just to have this one course. All RCPs will be required to undertake 40 hours of, or show that they have undertaken 40 hours of professional development courses during the year to make sure that they can renew their RCP qualifications. RCPs shall comply with IMIC, all laws and government regulations relating to the mineral industry, and with the rules, regulations, and practices as established and promulgated by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, and other relevant regulatory authorities. So again, you know, it's almost like the CAs, the RCPs are, you know, we have to abide by all the relevant laws and regulations. Okay, in the mining industry. Any agency that we are interacting with in our work, we need to make sure that we are following the rules and regulations related to that particular agency. The general guidance, make sure that we have the interaction with the community, interaction with clients and employers, and interaction with colleagues. The reason for this is, again, making sure that all the information that you require is properly collected, all the information is collected in a way that is most appropriate for that particular decision that we're trying to make, and making sure that all stakeholders are aware of what information is being gathered and presented. Okay, so that's very important. There are several committees for enforcement of these code of ethics. And basically, the complaints process is the judgment by the peers. All these deliberations are confidential, and there are two committees that are formed for processing complaints against an RCP. Okay, so an RCP, just because he's a recognized competent person or registered competent person, doesn't mean that he's the boss or he's a god. No, we're just trying to make sure that you're able to defend your results in front of a group of peers, or in front of your peers, and making sure that you do not follow any unethical or substandard procedures. Okay, the complaints committee and the ethics committees are two committees that are formed for processing these complaints. The complaints handling and redressal system is presented in section C of the Code of Ethics. The codes, compliance, and RCP obligations are put in there, and the complaints handling process is also mentioned here. Okay. So the complaints handling process, and we'll go through that shortly. How to lodge a complaint is mentioned in there. The receipt, acknowledgement, and assessment of complaints is mentioned. Notification and consideration. How to notify the complaint or to the complainant and the person against whom the complaint is being filed. Minor breaches, what are the minor breaches and what appeals can be done, what the significant breaches, and the minor breaches are basically handled by the complaints committee. Significant breaches, especially of ethics, goes to the ethics committee, and then there are penalties applied and appeals process for any such breaches. Okay, always there is a question of conflict of interest, making sure that the person who is making a representation does not have a conflict of interest. The legal representation status is also mentioned here in the complaints and handling process. The legal status of such complaints is mentioned, and confidentiality, like I said before, all these things are completely confidential, so that there's no backlash because of a complaint filed against an RCP. So here is the complaint handling and redressal system, and I apologize if you are not able to completely correctly see this. Again, the complaints procedure, this entire thing, the Code of Ethics is being sent to you. The hard copies are being sent to you, so you should be able to see it properly there. The Secretariat of the Code of Ethics receives the complaints. And then the Secretariat forwards it to the complaints committee for assessment. If it is a genuine complaint, then it needs investigation, then it'll go. Otherwise, this complaint is dismissed with a notification to the complainant. If the complaint is found to be genuine, then if it's a minor offense, it goes to the complaints committee to resolve the complaint. If it's a major offense, it's referred to the ethics committee, and they'd be notified for resolution, to the complainant. Once the committee's decision is forwarded to all concerned, there is a right to appeal against the complaint, and there is an option for a third-party review before action is taken on any particular complaint. And once the action is taken or the action is dismissed, the complaint is deemed to be resolved. All complaints are managed by a complaint management system, and it will be complaints against particular RCPs will be, stored and managed in that system. So here is a notice of complaint form, and the document is there. I'll show you the document also. I mean, I was afraid that this may not be clear. If you're watching it on a phone, it'll be very, very small font. But again, like I said, nothing to worry. This particular document, the entire document on Code of Ethics, is being sent to all of you by hard copy. Okay, so here is the actual form. The notice of complaint against the MEAI RCPs. And right now, since MEAI is the only professional organization in India right now, so it's only MEAI RCPs. But each professional organization will have its own Form 1, which will contain all this information. Okay, so this is basically the form that's filled out by the complainant, and the detailed information regarding the allegations will be provided here so that it can be evaluated by the ethics committee or the required complaints committee or the ethics committee. Okay. Okay, penalties that are to be imposed on RCPs. Penalties can be imposed where breach of code of ethics or IMIC is confirmed. And it can include just a caution or warning for a minor offense, or minor infraction, mediation and or counseling if there's a genuine kind of mistake, further education as required if best practices have not been followed or something was left out. Suspension or expulsion from the association from the MEAI is a possibility. And then if such suspension occurs, then publication of the details of the breach in Mining Engineers Journal, including public naming of the professional found to be in breach. These are some of the penalties that can be imposed on RCPs. The quantity of the type of penalties that are imposed by different reporting organizations, by different professional organizations in different countries are different, but they're all in similar nature. Number one is trying to make sure that the RCP does not create any further misinformation or ethics breaches to the casual investor. The Australian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, AUSIM, annual compliance reports is a document that's published. And this was published in April 2019. And you can see the number of complaints received and how they've been handled. Different kinds of complaints that are there. They're all listed here. And we will have a similar kind of thing for MEAI RCPs. Okay, this is the kind of information that will be published. This is good for us because it makes sure that the reliability or the acceptance of IMIC and the RCPs keeps improving as time goes by. Okay, that is all I have right now, and what I would like to do is quickly have Dr. Abani Samal make his presentation, which is the next one, and that's on the scope of IMIC. So without much ado, Abani, if you're ready, let's go ahead with yours. I know that you have other things that you need to take care of.
Dr. Srikanth, is this visible?
Yes, it is visible, and you are visible too.
But try to remove the black box that you video screen.
That's always a problem with these systems. Huh? Okay. So is this is this good now, Guna?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Dr. Srikanth. Yes, you're right that in a couple of hours, I have another presentation. This is actually 3 o'clock in the morning at my place here in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the USA. Yeah, I'm not sleeping tonight. So today, my task is to talk about the scope of IMIC. This is standard disclaimer, the same for all presentations. What is IMIC? Already Dr. Sikand talked about it. This is IMIC is the short form for Indian Mineral Industry Code.
May I just interrupt, Abani?
Sorry?
The pronunciation is IMIC.
Okay, good. I live in that part of the world, right? IMIC is the Indian Mineral Industry Code developed by the mineral industry professionals in India under NACRI banner. IMIC has been reviewed and approved by CRISCO for the reporting of resources and reserves in India. The details about the history of IMIC and the dates, particular dates, they are all available to you and in the introduction of IMIC and also in the charter. So I encourage you guys to, all the attendees to really go through those if you are interested to know more about how it was developed, who are the people, they worked on it. Basically, I can say that the industry professionals, they contributed to the development of IMIC. That covers all, they cover all parts of India and all disciplines of mining industry. So it was a thrilling experience of mine coming from this part of the world and being involved in this process in India, and also working through with CRISCO, going through the approval process, which took us nearly 18 months of about 8 or 9 rounds of review and edits and all different things. So this is, and when we went through the approval process, we were, there are 13 countries are the members of CRISCO. That means that India is the 14th member of CRISCO. All 13 countries are aware and they have approved this code. What that really means that when we make another reciprocity process, we go through that, IMIC will be can be used in another country. Like Dr. Srikanth mentioned, we are working with Indonesia. I'm working with the United States of America, where I sit in the committee also. So making sure that, we go through the dialogue and going through the process with the individual, with the countries, where IMIC will be also recognized as an international code for reporting resource and reserve, like we are using JORC in India, like I'm also using JORC in another country, being a qualified person. So IMIC is an internationally recognized and approved code. The purpose is to set IMIC provides the required minimum standard for public reporting of exploration results, mineral resources, and reserves. There are two very important words in here. It's required. It's mandatory to follow. What really means here, I have used one example. There are many other examples. For mineral resources of any category of classification, that includes info category actually, it is required to meet the criteria for reasonable prospect for eventual economic extraction, or RPEEE, We will be discussing more about that, I believe, on 13th January, and those sessions in a week time. So, or in 2 weeks time, right? So more discussion will be there on those. So it's required, and it sets a minimum. Minimum means at least the given standards will be followed. What really means that even though it is expected, but it's not required to follow the industry best practices. Example, use of the cutoff grade as a criterion may barely qualify, even though it can be challenged, and in some cases, to meet the IEEE criteria. And personally, I have been in more than one situation in the last 2 years in this particular scenario. However, use of a pit limit for a surface mining method is considered as a best practice for justifying IEEE. So IMIC or IMIC sets the minimum criteria. It says, well, you have to meet the requirements of IEEE or reasonable prospect for eventual economic extraction for reporting resources. However, it cannot prescribe which method you have to follow, what parameters you have to use, all those different things. Those are prescriptions. No code in the world does that, and IMIC cannot do that. Now, the two things, one is the minimum requirement, the other one is what's the best practice, right? So setting the minimum criteria definitely adds a lot of value compared to not having it. However, the CP or the RCP can always use the industry best practices, and so that the report is more robust. 3 principles: transparency, materiality, and competency. Transparency means there is sufficient information that is clearly presented without any ambiguity. I'll take an example of exploration project I'm currently involved in. For reporting exploration results, what is sufficient amount of information that one should be presenting? That is the amount of information that a potential investor requires or would require, or their technical representatives require to assess, make an assessment and an informed decision on potential investment on any property. So that is sufficient. Now, one may ask, does IMIC give a list of things to to do for the exploration results? No, that will be a prescription. IMIC doesn't do that, and no other reporting course does that. However, we say it requires sufficient information, so a qualified person would know how much information we need to provide for a potential investor to make an informed decision. Materiality, here I would actually underline 2 words. One is, one word that is relevant. Relevant information to be presented for the investors and their professional advisors to make well-informed decisions based on reasoned and balanced judgment. Again, in the same example, if it is an exploration project and we are writing a technical report on the exploration project, we are disclosing the exploration project for in the public domain, what is material here is probably access to the project, actually, where the drilling is going on or something is going on. But what may not be of interest to an investor is what's going on 100 miles from or 100 kilometers from the property. Maybe another big deposit there. So what? It's not relevant. Actually, it's not relevant. So what is relevant, that has to be presented. And all that has to be done under the guidance of a competent person. Public report to be based on the work that is the responsibility of suitably qualified and experienced person. These are basically when we talk about qualification and competency. And I think the next session we'll be talking about the required qualifications of RCP and required number of years of experience who can act as an RCP. So under an RCP's guidance, all this work has to be done, and him or his team, that means the RCP depends on other experts, take the full responsibility on the information that is being reported in the reported the public domain. So materiality, transparency, materiality, and competency, there are three principles of IMIC. Again, further explanations in here. You present all the information regarding exploration data. On the resource estimation, all information about the input data, resource estimation processes, parameters, results should be clearly explained so that the resource estimation process can be followed and results can be reproduced or verified. That's actual transparency. Further explanation on the materiality. Another example of on the exploration project, and the data and information that represents the current status of the project that helps in predicting the future opportunities or risks, and that is considered relevant. What really means that in an exploration project, let's say we're going for a porphyry copper, yes, there may be gold. We're excited to report about gold. What about if we find bismuth? That's also equally important. We need to really report that. Nothing is hidden. Everything that you know have to be reported. By you, I mean the RCP. If the competent person knows something, it has to be reported. Examples, another example here, access to the exploration site, like I said already, that may be of material interest to the investor, that has to be disclosed. The registered competent person or the RCP responsible for reporting exploration results, mineral resources, and reserves should have relevant experience. For an example, like Dr. Srikant said, as a mining engineer, he couldn't probably sign off as a geologist on an exploration project. I'm a geologist. I'm practicing in this field for a little more than 22 years or so. But that doesn't qualify me to sign off on a reserve. I do not have required qualification. That means I'm not a mining engineer with the required academic qualifications. I do not have the experience as a mining engineer, so I cannot sign off on the reserve. However, if I need to consult, I need the help of a mining engineer, I have to find a qualified mining engineer to assist me in making some certain decisions in reporting the resources, mineral resources. I think the example says the exactly same thing. So, it also applies to all disciplines where the RCPs are practicing. Further guidance, there are a couple slides on this. The RCP must comment on materiality that is known to be important for the investors. Lack of comments by RCP can potentially mislead the investors. Presence of silver in a lead zinc manto type deposit is an important information for an investor. This is from one of my projects. I can't name the project, but this was a real case. At the same time, traces of bismuth, when known, should also be mentioned by the RCPs, as this information can have material effect on the project. So if you know good thing, please present. If you know bad thing, also you need to also present that. We'll probably have a session on table 1. That is an a list. That's a checklist. Comments related to the relevant sections of table 1 must be complied with, and if not, why not basis. If not, why not really means, there are certain sections, and for every section, the RCP has to make a comment. If the requirement on the in the checklist in the table 1 is not met, or the RCP says that, well, we do not meet this particular clause or this particular item in the list, then it has to explain why not. So that actually further gives an opportunity for the potential investors to look at more details about the project, and it helps them to make a real good informed decision based on information provided in the report. The reporting of first time or materially changed exploration results or mineral resources or the reserve estimates be accompanied by a technical summary of all relevant sections of table 1. And there are different clauses. So I will actually leave that for discussion when that session comes. Public reports. These are the reports prepared for the purpose of informing the investors or potential investors and their advisors on the exploration results, mineral resources, and mineral reserves. They include but are not limited to annual and quarterly company reports, press releases, information memoranda, technical papers, and website postings and public presentations. You see, everything that is, all kinds of items, all the information that helps a potential investor to make a decision comes under IMIC, and it has to comply with the set standards of IMIC when the reporting is done under IMIC's IMIC guidelines. So it's not just one report; it's everything else, and all this information has to be verified, reviewed, verified, and confirmed by the RCPs. Solid minerals. A mineral is defined as a substance occurring naturally, inner on the earth, inner under water, or in tailings, residue or stockpiles, having been formed by or subjected to geological processes, and includes sand, stone, aggregates, gravel, clay, and soil, but excludes water, oil, and gas. It may sound like a silly or redundant definition, but this is I have to read word by word, because that is the definition of mineral to which actually IMIC is applied to. IMIC is applicable to all solid minerals, metalliferous minerals, coal, diamonds and other gemstones, industrial minerals, cement feed materials, construction raw materials, and oil shales, oil sands, other energy minerals extracted by mining metallic or non-metallic minerals extracted by solution mining method. IMIC is relevant to all different commodities except water, oil, and gas. In recently you may have heard about lithium and other commodities being extracted using techniques known as in situ leaching and those kind of things. They're all covered under IMIC, but what is not covered is water, oil, and gas. So it has to be all solid minerals and some other commodities as defined in the IMIC. This is standard figure 1, very similar to the figure 1 of any other code. They are and because IMIC is built on the standard definitions provided by Crisco template, our figure 1 is looking very similar to that of Crisco template, and also that will be very similar to the figure 1 of JORG or other reporting codes worldwide. This figure 1 provides a relationship between exploration results, resource, and reserve, and that reflects different levels of geoscientific knowledge and different degrees of technical and economic evaluation required for various categories of resource and reserve reporting. I think that's all I have for the scope of IMIC. I have a little bit time. I can take a question or two. Is that allowed, Dr. Srikanth?
Absolutely. Questions are encouraged, and I request the participants, if you have any questions on this, please feel free and ask. We are here to make sure that there are clarifications provided to any of the material that you're seeing here. Okay. Okay.
Pretty good. Thank you, Guna. This is pretty good comment on our experience in India with the in the absence of IMIC, we used JORG. Now India has our Made in India code IMIC to be adopted by the industry.
I didn't want to disturb your flow of speech. That's why I put it on chat.
I couldn't see it actually.
Terrific. Actually, that's a very good comment, Guna. And I've just been in discussions with several persons. What has come up is what is required by our stock exchanges is finally what governs what goes to the casual investor. If the stock exchanges do not care, the casual investor is at risk. And what IMIC is doing, what NACRI is doing, what the focus of all this is to make sure that the stock exchanges also recognize the problems that can arise if we do not follow some of the guidelines that are given here. Okay. So it's all good. Things take time to change. So as time passes and as we get more experience in investing in from private people, things will change. Dr. Harish Kumar, did you have a question? Dr. Harish Kumar, did you have a question? You're muted. Yeah.
He's muted actually.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I have no questions. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just wanted to
See,
comment.
one of the comments.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Abani.
When we started this journey in India in 2014, end of 2014, let's say beginning of 2015, the first time we met at CRISCO annual meeting was Brazil. So Brazil joined in 2015. They are very similar situation like ours. They are still working with their government to adapt their code. Fast forward 5 years, they have the government and the stock exchanges have made their core as mandatory. All of us may be knowing it, Vale, the largest, one of the largest mining companies out of Brazil. I'm not sure how much actually Vale is actually adopting their code worldwide, but many other mining companies, they are now using their domestic codes for reporting their resource reserve and mainly exploration results. A lot of those works coming out of Brazil. So it took them few years. More recently, you may have seen actually Indonesia has a lot of activities there. Indonesia joined 2017, 2018, Indonesia joined actually. So they're recent ones actually. We are the latest ones. It will take us a little bit time, but if you look at the rate of progress we have made in India, compare that our northern neighbors, we have amazed actually the rest of the world where India being India, and now we developed the codes, we have joined CRISCO, now we're running already the training programs. Now we're in talk with the stock exchange and the government of India. So there are a lot of things happening. Like I agree with you, Dr. Srikanth, it will just take a little bit time, but we'll be there where, or probably where Australia and Canada are now today, someday, hopefully in my lifetime.
Great.
Is there time for a few comments?
No, actually, we need to start your presentation because I want to try and see if we can finish by 5 o'clock today. But I'd just like to recognize a few people who are on the call right now, and you can see them if you scroll through your videos. I'll try and get them one by one spotlighted so you can see them. The first one you've already seen, and he has just finished his lecture, Dr. Abani Samal, and the resumes of all the persons who are presenting, they will be presented to you in the next class, okay, the next session, that is on Wednesday, okay. But this is Dr. Abani Samal. We have T.N. Gunaseelan, who's also a member of NACRI and a very familiar face in all the mining industry in India. So I'm not going to belittle him by introducing him. Don't be embarrassed, Guna. It's all right. We also have with us Shamik Chattopadhyay who's joining us from a remote location. He is with SRK, and again, a very familiar face in the mining industry in India. So all of us have been part of the CRISCO or the NACRI movement here in India.
He will be presenting next.
He will be presenting next. Shamik will be presenting next. And here is T.R. Rajshekhar, who is joining us. Even though he is a little under the weather, he is with us today and listening in on the conversations. He will be making a presentation on mineral reserves in coal-related issues. We also have with us A.K. Sarangi, Dr. A.K. Sarangi, who will be joining us for mineral resources discussions. I think that is scheduled tomorrow and day after tomorrow. Deepak, if you could have your video on, I'd like to add you also to this introduction. Okay. Deepak is, yeah, okay. Deepak will be coming on shortly. Let me see. I think Pankaj Satija is also on without video right now. I'll introduce the rest later.
Kuldeep is there.
Kuldeep is here? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a yes. So here's, Kuldeep Solanki, who is also going to be making a presentation on several issues, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, in the next 2 classes. So Kuldeep is with Vedanta. And we have Deepak Rathod from Trimex. He's also a familiar face in the mining industry, in the minerals industry. So from Trimex, Deepak Rathod, he'll be making presentations as well. Okay. I'll introduce the rest of the team later in time, in consideration of the time that has already passed, making sure that we try to keep on time. Let's get back to Guna and his presentation on competence and, sorry, not Guna, it is Shamik who's been presenting on, competence and responsibility. So here you go, Shamik, the floor is yours.
Right. Thank you. Wishing you all Happy New Year. Thank you, Dr. Srikanth, Dr. Samal, for setting up the scene. So I'll just share my screen. So is it visible?
Yep, all visible. Thank you.
Okay, right. Thank you so much. So this session is about the competence and responsibility. And I have my colleague, Mr. Gunashilan, is with me. So once we are done with the presentation, then we will be most happy to answer all of your queries. With the same disclaimer that we have given earlier, so I'm not reading it once again, but this is should be taken into the consideration. So if you have the study material and the IMIC code with you, so basically we'll be addressing clause 6 to clause 9, and about which deals about the competencies and the responsibility. So we'll start with the definition of the registered competent person. Before we go into the definition, I would like to bring to your attention that everything in the last session Dr. Samal has mentioned, that needs to be taken into the consideration. For example, the purpose of the public reporting, which is mainly for the informing the common investor. And I would like to also, because since the competent person is a common term, so I would like to maybe point out that it is, while it is equivalent to the competent person or qualified person as defined in the JORC or 43101 code respectively, but it is not the RQP as we see or we understand in India. So there is a clear distinction between the registered competent person and the RQP that we have in India. On that note, I just like to begin this. So who is a registered competent person? So basically, he is a mineral industry professional who is first of all, is a member of a professional organization that is headquartered in India and approved by NACRI, or is a member of a recognized professional organization or RPO, which is listed and recognized by the NACRI. And it is a dynamic process, but as of now, as we are speaking, there are a list of RPOs that are available with NACRI. So these organizations have the enforceable disciplinary actions, including the power of suspension or expel a member, as in the previous session you have heard about the charter. These registered competent person must have a minimum of 10 years of experience, and this must include 5 years of experience in the style of mineralization of the deposits that he or she is reporting and the activity on which he or she is taking the part. So what does this mean? We'll come to a bit later about the more explanation side. The public reporting should be based on the work of the responsibility that is suitably qualified and experienced people. So that is the more important, because based on such report, people would take decision for their investment or potential investment, and therefore it is most like a person who can be trusted upon, who has an enforceable disciplinary action on him or her, and therefore an enforceable professional code of ethics and rule of conduct must be abided by that person. So if we classify what we have heard in the definition, so basically firstly, there's a qualification part. One part is basically that person has to be a member of a professional organization, for example, in India, MEI, which is approved by NACRI, or a recognized professional organization, for example, OSIMM, SME, or any of those which are being recognized by NACRI, which is headquartered outside India. The educational qualification must be there to, for example, he or she has to be either if he's signing a resource report, has to be a geologist, so geological educational background has to be there. If he or she is signing off a mining or any geotechnical report, that appropriate educational background has to be there. So together with, if that person has total 10 years of professional experience and at least 5 years of relevant experience will come to the next slide, then that person is qualified as registered competent person as per IMIC. Now, if you have probably noticed that some of the equivalent codes, for example, the JORC code or the 4311 code has minimum 5 years of relevant experience, but it is in IMIC, there's a distinction that we have kept it 10 years of professional experience. Now, the word relevant is very critical while defining the RCP. Think of this table where we have a different style of mineralization, starting from BIFO state iron ore deposit to primary, or for example, alluvial diamond deposit. So there is a degree of complexity. There are nuances are different. The requirements are different. Also, there are a number of exploration activities that we typically undertake in an exploration project or a resource estimation project that starts from target selection to, for example, undertaking geostatistical block modeling technique and for example, in mine design or geotechnical evaluation. And also there are 3 types of reporting. For example, exploration target, exploration results, mineral resource, and mineral reserve. So basically, when a person is signing off in a report, that person must have 5 years of experience in undertaking that particular activity for similar style of mineralization. So that is what is interpreted or the guidance has been provided for the relevant, the word relevant. Now, for example, if you ask me, you have worked in a gold deposit, nuggety gold deposit, and you have an uranium project with you, which is also of a similar nature, a nuggety type vein deposit. So do you qualify? The answer is yes, if you have sufficient confidence to justify your being an RCP, because it's a style of mineralization is similar. But for example, someone is having 5 years of experience undertaking in a, for example, similar gold nuggety deposit, but that person probably would not be appropriate to report an exploration result of a hard rock porphyry copper deposit, because the style of mineralization is changed, and therefore the activities, the way we see the project, the way we envisage the exploration development or resource or mine planning, so that is not the similar, may not be similar in nature. So therefore, while assessing yourself as an RCP for a certain project, you have to take this into consideration. So therefore, as it is mentioned, it is not always necessarily that the person has to have 10 years of experience in every deposit that they are talking about. For example, a person with 20 years of experience in, for example, resource estimation for a different hard rock deposit. So that person may not require 5 years of specific experience in one in porphyry, one in nugget gold deposit, one in different style of mineralization. No. So here we have to use common sense, professional ethics, and professional judgment to qualify ourselves as a registered competent person as per the IMIC. And that person taking responsibility of the compilation of certain report, for example, exploration report, mineral resource, or mineral reserve, for example, should have sufficient experience in the sampling and analytical technique relevant to the deposit. Otherwise, what he or she is reporting, he or she cannot take responsibility of it. And therefore, should be aware of the problem that the materially affecting either the reliability of the data or the interpretation. Therefore, this is quite essential to qualify. And also, certain appreciation of the extraction or, for example, even processing technologies that is relevant to the style of deposit or the nature of deposit should also be taken into the consideration while judging yourself as an RCP. So therefore, in summary, a person being called to act as a registered competent person should be clear in his or her own mind that if that person has to face someone and demonstrate that he or she is a competent, he can defend what he has or she has written for the type of deposit and the activities that he or she has undertaken, then only you qualify as an RCP. If, for example, if I'm asking myself, there is a rule of thumb that if I'm asking myself for a certain type of project or certain type of activity, whether I am an RCP, so you should always seek opinion from your peers or maybe from NACRI or rather decline to act as an RCP. Now, while we are talking about the RCP, there are multiple registered competent person. Why? Because, and this is typically happens during the mineral reserve estimation, where you need people from different disciplines. For example, someone is contributing to mineral reserve in terms of the geological model. Some person is contributing on the geotechnical part. Some person is doing the mining part, hydrogeology, and other modifying factors. And therefore, the person or persons who are taking the responsibility of compiling the mineral reserve estimation or the statement, that person either has to take the responsibility of whole team's work, or for example, every individual has to take or own their own work or own component that they are contributing to the mineral reserve. So basically, this is also quite common, and sometimes it is common for resource reporting as well. Someone is taking responsibility for the exploration data and the quality, and someone is taking responsibility of the variogram and the geostatistical methodologies or the parameters that has been chosen. This is getting very common nowadays. Now we have spoken about the responsibility and the importance of the the RCPs, registered competent person. Now, what are the methodologies of complaints? For example, in the previous session, you have heard about the charter, you have heard about the disciplinary action, how it is enforceable. Now, the complaints that is made with respect to for a certain RCP is related to certain professional work should be dealt under a disciplinary procedure under the professional organization that person is belong to. So that professional organization will take a call and according to their code of ethics and disciplinary actions, they would take the necessary actions depending on the nature of the complaints. And the registered competent person, so and undertaking that activity should appreciate that they are accepting the full responsibility of the estimate and supporting the document for the stock exchanges. In our case, it is the SEBI, and that rules are not being, messing with, and should not treat the procedure merely as a kind of a rubber stamping exercise. It is not like an RCP comes in and without doing its duly professional duty, just signing off for the sake of signing off. He or she must understand the importance of his or her signature and the consequences of that signature, and thereby take full professional responsibility along with the ethical code of conduct that has been abided through the professional organization charters. So these are the compliance that he or she has to go by all the times. Now, when an Indian stock exchange listing company, which is has an overseas interest, like many of us know that people investing in Africa or in part of Europe or Australia, then wishes to report the overseas exploration results. For example, some project in, for example, East Africa, West Africa, with a mineral resource or exploration results or mineral reserve, that prepared by a person who is not a member of PO or RPO, it is necessary for that company to nominate a registered competent person, or for example, persons if required, that is recognized by NACRI, to take responsibility of such results or such reports. So in summary, if, for example, the company is reporting back of certain asset to Indian Stock Exchange listed company, that they have an asset with a certain amount of mineral resource, so that person who is signing off must be recognized by NACRI and therefore should be an RC. Now, in terms of the documentation, so all the public report that is concerning the a company's exploration target or exploration results or mineral resource or mineral reserves is the responsibility of the company's board of directors. So it is the board of directors who are issuing. Now, it is incumbent on the board of directors to issue such report, which is fairly reflect all the information that are material and all the supporting documentation, and prepared by a recognized, a registered competent person or persons. A company issuing a public report should disclose all the names of the registered competent person and state whether the registered competent person is a full-time employee or of that particular company, or if it is not, then the full disclosure of the RCP's employer. Thereby, any potential conflict of interest with the RCP
Okay, looks like we're having some technical issue with Shamik. I'm hoping that he'll come back soon.
Closed in the public report. Am I audible properly?
Yeah, we just lost you for a few seconds there.
Okay.
So if you want to repeat the information on the slide, that'll be great.
Okay, fair. So, so basically, therefore, what I was saying, the potential conflict of interest by the RCP and the company must be disclosed in accordance with one of the three principles, that is the transparency principles. And any relationship between the RCP and the company that could have a potential conflict or any sort of information that the common investor must know, that must be disclosed in the public report. There is a consent to the registered competent person. So therefore, while the company is disclosing, a prior written consent from the RCP is required. Now, the condition when someone is reissuing the information, the original report name date, and the RCPs, name of the RCP should be disclosed by the company, and the date and reference of the location of the original source should be reported. Now, it is not required any prior consent when the company has new information from the date of the previous RCP report, and no new information has been generated. No change in terms of the assumptions or technical parameters. For example, the gold price, for example, if someone is reporting as gold, the gold price has not fallen from the previous report, or any technical parameter, for example, any beneficiability or any sort of technological changes are not being solved by the company, or there has not been any findings that can materially impact the overall project economics or project development path. Now, this is exempted only if the report is being made for the annual report, which is under the clause 13 of the IMIC. So which requires a different deliberation, and we'll deal with that during the course. But that is a separate clause that we have to keep in mind. There are multiple consent forms. For example, the compliance statement needs to be provided that format is given in Appendix 3 of the IMIC, and the RCP's consent form is also provided in Appendix 2. We will deal with this in the appropriate session. The completion of the consent form is basically a recommended good practice, and RCP's consent form should be retained by the company, and registered competent person to ensure that the written consent can be promptly provided if required. So that is a requirement, typically what we observe. We'll come to that example in the best practice session. Now,
Shamik, before
a company is documenting.
Shamik, before you get to the next section, there is a question regarding the conflict of interest. So,
Sure.
Conflict of interest, would it be considered a conflict of interest if the annual resources and reserve statement of a company is signed off by its employee itself?
Well, there are two ways of handling it. If it is an independent, that depends on the listing rules. Some of the listing rules says that the independent competent person must be taken into consideration. So therefore, basically you have then competent person writing on behalf of the company, competent person or RCP is producing a resource and reserve statement, which is audited by an independent RCP. That is one way of doing. If the listing rule doesn't say that, then it is probably fine. So this all depends on the stock exchange requirement. Probably I need to open my chat box, right?
Yeah, but what is important is it has to be disclosed as well.
Yes,
absolutely.
The disclosure is important. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So while in documentation, that documentation deals with the exploration result of mineral resource or mineral reserve estimate. So such should be based and prepared and under the direction and signed by a RCP, or could be multiple RCPs. The documentation must provide a fair representation of those elements, whether it is exploration result, whether it's a mineral resource, or there is a mineral reserve. So it should be fair and balanced representation. Now, there are certain responsibility lies with the company. A public report that is concerning company's results, for example, exploration results or exploration target, etc., this should be based on a fairly representative basis, and it is part of the company's board of directors' responsibility. And the company which is issuing the public report should disclose the name of the registered competent person and their relationship with the company. So before we conclude the session, maybe we just do a quick exercise. If you could just, don't have to submit it. Just write down your professional experience, professional membership. Write down your experience in different style of mineralization that you have worked in your career in the past, and the key activities that you have undertaken, and then assess whether your competency to act as a registered competent person for a certain type of deposit, and which type of deposit it could be, and what type of activities, for example, it is reporting the exploration results, whether reporting of mineral resource or whether it's a reporting of mineral result. So maybe you can take 1 minute of your time, and then if you have any question, definitely you can get back to us. So with that, we conclude this presentation, and I'm happy to, and Mr. Gunashilan is also there, so we're happy to take any of the answers.
Thank you, Shamik, and let's open the floor for questions. If there are any questions on this, especially regarding the qualifications for RCP.
Hello, sir. Myself Shubhan Aish. I am working in DMT. I have one question to Shamik, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Shamik, sir, is there this 10 years experience? Is there anything constraint is there for this location? Like if somebody worked outside of India for certain years and he is now working in India, those?
No. It is 10 years total professional experience. It doesn't matter whether it is in India or outside.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I think the primary thing, Suman, is always trying to figure out whether you can defend yourself in front of your peers, that you have the adequate experience and that you have used the best practices to do that that particular work. Okay, so like I said, as a mining engineer, if I have never worked in coal, I will not sign off, or I will not assume the responsibilities of an RCP for a coal resources and reserves report. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter where you have worked, as long as you worked in a similar kind of deposit.
See, usually the situation comes when the RCP prepares a report for a client and earns some money. But when the client approaches an investor or a banker, the banker in turn will engage another RCP to validate what we have done. Now that's where the defense comes in. If you're unable to defend, and if the client says that let's look for higher valuation, and then you try to do a substandard work, you will be caught. That is why if you see in many of the places, there's a usage of the word fair representation. Thank you.
But again, good question. There's another question from Mrinmoy Chakravarti, is it? In India, a lot of companies spend on exploration, but the exploration agency who have not done exploration as per standards, has the RCP got the right to refuse from reporting those results?
So, firstly, in India, probably there not a lot of exploration expenditure. So that is one thing, just on a different note. Yes, your question, if it is, I have understood it right. So RCP has right to refuse or accept the exploration results to be part of his or her report. Now, one of the key things when we'll go to exploration results and the targets, etc., if you see, there are a lot of elements in the exploration results that must be undertaken under the supervision of the RCP. So if, for example, the company under question has not developed or has not undertaken the exploration data or generated the exploration data under the supervision of RCP, it is the prerogative of that other RCP who is signing off that not to accept that data. It is absolutely fine and it is desirable.
Very good question, Mrinmoy.
Just to add to that, I think the RCP has all the time, he has the right to refuse from signing off. But when it comes to some data that has been explored by another exploration agency, and he is aware of the person who has done that exploration, and he does his own quality control and quality assurance checks. And if he finds that he is satisfied, then he can sign.
Right.
So again, essentially it is how comfortable you are with the data that is presented to you. If it has been collected under your guidance and it is satisfactory, done as per your guidance, that's fine. You can accept it. If it has been done by somebody else, if you know the person and you know his quality of work, and if you have had discussion with him, you're fine to accept that. If you at any time you feel that no, I do not have confidence in the material that is being presented to me, I will refuse it. So for example, there was one report that came to me, a geology report, that was a basis for a mine design, and the geologist, or I don't think he was a geologist also, he was representing somebody who had prepared this map. He did not have enough information on that map for me to take a call on whether to accept the report or not. And I took it to the client and I said, okay, look, whoever has done this work has not done it to my satisfaction. So for me to sign off on this document is difficult. Okay, so you have to use that judgment. Please step back from any report if you are not comfortable, with what is written in it. That's very important.
One question I have.
Yes.
Is it a good practice to report back to the NACRI or MEAI that such and such a report has been refused because of so and so reasons?
Not necessary.
No, unless you have a complaint.
Unless you have a complaint, not necessary.
Yeah. See, this kind of a situation, I think lots of companies face. For example, 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000, a lot of exploration has been done. And somehow additional drilling may have been done recently. So if you want to, prepare and sign off as a report, what you generally do is you try to take 5 or 10% of the number of, say, in the case of drilling, 5 to 10% of drilling that has already been carried out, and use that number of holes as twin drilling or infill drilling to ensure that the deposit is actually there and gain confidence of the previous exploration data. Then after that, you integrate with the additional data and you can sign off.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's a question from Dipanjan Sinha. It says, in case the mineral resource estimate is being done as a team effort, do all the team members have to be an RCP so as to take responsibility of his or her part?
The answer is not necessarily. if the person who is signing off the mineral resource, for example, has taken the responsibility of the work of the other colleagues, then it's not. For example, it would be better that I give an example. For example, you have, Dipanjan, that you have experience both in exploration as well as resource estimation. So maybe you can supervise the work in the exploration as well as in the mineral resource estimation your colleagues have been doing. So you are taking responsibility of both the works. But for example, I have been always in my life has been either doing block modeling or has been to the exploration site, has no clue about the other activities. So it is not sensible and it is not desirable that I take responsibility of the work that I have never been exposed to or not competent enough to justify my position as RCP. In that case, it is advisable, recommended that multiple RCPs signs off the report. Does that answer your question?
Dipanjan, in addition to this, sometimes when a team is working together, okay, one person has supervised the entire activity and is aware of everything that's gone on. He can say that, okay, I'm taking responsibility for what has been put in this report. There are occasions when you can specifically say that, okay, I have gone through the work that has been done and I am comfortable in my area of competence includes, say, for example, block modeling. So the block model or the resource estimation has, I'm comfortable signing off on that part of the work. Okay. So, the complete resource estimate, we may have a bunch of people who are actually signing off if it comes to that. If it's a large project, that's possible that happens. Okay, there's another question. This is from Madhavanand Acharya. Are you covering any activities related to mineral processing, metallurgical test work, costing and economics for geoscience professionals? It is paramount for reserve estimation during pit optimization. Madhavji, the thing is that we are not covering specifics of all these things. What we are covering is what is listed within IMIC regarding mineral processing or metallurgical test work. We are also talking about best practices in some of these areas. Okay, so we will not deal with pit optimization. We will not deal with economics or geosciences or geotechnical engineering. But what we will deal with is what the code says, regarding resource estimation or reserve estimation, different kinds of different kinds of cases. And in the best practices section, we will talk about some of these issues. In the future, that means from next year onwards, after this course is done, when you want to renew your RCP license or certification, you will be required or you will be undertaking courses which are relevant to your area of specialization, and we will be adding that as your professional development hours. Okay.
Yeah, what IMIC will talk about is what are the things like mineral processing, metallurgical test work, etc. should be dealt with in the report as modifying factors.
Correct. Does it answer your question, Madhav? Okay, okay, yes, it says thank you. There's another question from Ravinder Jain. If RCP is inexperienced in coal, can he also be RCP for lignite?
The answer is yes.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Biplab's question, Shrikant, in terms of relevant competency requirements for RCP, how do we compare with competency requirements for a CP or QP for reporting standards of other countries?
Reciprocity.
Well, as I started, I mean, in the beginning, so basically we are treating RCP and the CP and QP as the same terminology in the same bench. The only difference, it would be the other way around, that people from Australia or Canada who are listed there as QP and CP may not qualify as RCP just because they might not have 10 years of experience, because their qualification criteria is a bit lower. So it is the other way around. It is not about we qualify there, it is they do not qualify in India.
They may not qualify in India.
Yeah.
I mean, my interest was not in knowing whether we qualify or not, Shavik. I was just looking at have we deliberately kept our standards higher than those countries for their respective reporting?
Yes, there are a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Yes, there are a couple of reasons. One, if you have read the Jackie Coombs' work, I'll start from there, and it is her PhD topic on the development of the competent person, and her recommendation was 10 years. Secondly, most likely, most of the codes are likely to see these changes. Number two. Thirdly, and most importantly, India starting up this IMIC, and we wanted to set our standard to a bit higher level so that, as we know, the rubber stamping and the other issues that we typically deal with, that can be avoided. And more importantly, RCP is not merely of meeting with the qualification, it is also a continuous process of developing yourself, writing report for a continuous basis, so that it's a path, it's a journey. So that
philosophically, Shamik, it's all okay. I mean, and again, probably my apologies. I'm probably taking you out of the purview of this discussion today, because I think we are getting into another long debate.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that. Don't want to get into that. But just to point out just one thing, a country which produces everything together, probably about which sifts through 5 billion tons of dirt annually, both coal, metal, industrial aggregates, everything together, 5 billion tons of metal annually, needs a huge number of RCPs if you want everything to be up to the standards. Now, so how many RCPs do you think we will be having with this very, very stringent criteria? Just a thought. Don't have to answer this, because I know you don't have the answer. It will be very difficult for you to answer. Just a thought.
Sure.
Let me add something to that, Biplav. The thing is, when we look at what kind of experience a person gains in 3 to 5 years in US or in Canada or Australia or in South Africa, and what we gain in India, what kind of work we are exposed to in India in the first few years, I think that became the basis for why we increased the number of years of experience required in India. I think that was the basis why for this classification. Not that we wanted to make it deliberately more stringent than other countries. This is what we during discussions, this is what we felt that person would be learning.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. I mean, my just suspicion is that you may be struggling to find a number of if it is suddenly adopted, and all the banks and all the public finance institutions seek RCPs for every single report, we will be struggling. That's my thought. But look, again, as I said, we're going into a discussion probably beyond the realms of this course, so we can take it later. That's my estimation.
I would suggest Biplav to park this aside. Can be discussed later.
Yeah. Okay.
I can take the next question, Shrikant, if you
sure.
permit.
Go ahead.
This is from Mr. Rajendran. RCP is a new concept in India. Many state and central government agencies have carried out exploration for decades. Those data also have value. They cannot be thrown away. RCP should be able to evaluate the data and extract the relevant data and should be able to use them. Yes, you're correct. Now, in fact, we have been given a work from Gujarat state where they had this legacy reports. That's what you're calling it as, legacy reports. There are some 696 legacy reports. Apart from that, there were some 250 minor minerals reports. So we tried to go through them and try to fish out what data is available, whether it is auction ready or some amount of exploration is required, prioritize them, and we did. Obviously, I agree with you 100% that all the data that has been gathered is of value. Unless the data, is not plotted on the map, it doesn't have XYZ, doesn't have litholog, just simply statement is made. Otherwise, all the data has value.
Right. I would just like to add in here. So basically, RCP's report is a kind of a personal endorsement of the data. So he or she has to be agreeing with the quality and the report before, because the liability would be on the RCP, not the other state entities that has been exploring. So therefore, we don't have to be emotional about it. It is purely technical decision, professional decision, and case by case one has to take before either accepting or discarding. If it is being accepted by the RCP, he or she has to mention what methodology he or she has followed in order to accept it. If it is discarded, they have to mention. It's a scientific process. That's what all I have to say.
Yes.
So yeah. And
next question, Shrikant.
Yeah. So
Actually, there's a similar question from Narendra Kavadia also.
No. Next question is from Mr. Dhrubjyoti Nath.
Yeah. So no, this question had similar sentiment. So I thought that it was the same thing. But what measures or any suggestions can RCP adopt to adequately manage exposure to liabilities? Okay, I think Shamik, you want to take that, or Guna?
It's simple QA/QC from my side. Shamik, you can elaborate.
Well, liability, it is already there when someone is actually declaring himself or herself as an RCP, that means he has or she has to abide by all the bylaws of the professional organization, the NACRI charter, and the code itself. So that becomes the liability. Now, the other thing is basically getting ourselves aware of those liability, and that is the purpose of this PD works, this professional development works. So making ourselves aware that before signing off on certain report, so these are the legal, financial, etc. These are the liabilities comes into with that signature. So yes, that awareness is required, and for that only we have to keep ourselves updated and keep meeting, maybe keep attending this kind of workshop, interacting with different RCPs, and that is the only way, and that is the only way across the world.
I'm just a common question here to probably Mr. Nath. Is liability and risk are synonymous here for Mr. Nath? I'm just trying to understand what does liability mean here. Is liability and risk are the same? What you meant? Or Shamik, what you meant when you answered it?
I actually meant liability and risk as the same. Yeah.
I mean, all of us will have, as RCPs, will have certain responsibilities, accountabilities, liabilities, all these things. Whether risk is the same as that or not is another thing.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a question from Kanishka Datta. Kanishka, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks. I just had a point on this liability issue. We had a consultant from South Africa who very well told us what he had to manage this liability. he had huge insurance against getting sued as an RQP. That is something we should know.
No, that's true. We also have that.
Yeah.
We do it everywhere around the world. We have this insurance done.
So which company do you think Guna will be doing insurance on this in India? We probably have to work on it, I guess.
No, we have a worldwide insurance done.
Okay. So it's international insurance. But do
Yeah.
you think those international players will be taking NACRI RCPs for insurance?
No, insurance is a country subject basically.
Yeah,
But
that's what I thought.
yeah, but somehow we have got it managed internationally.
So as long as you're working on JORC and NI 43-101 probably, or SAMREC, probably that will be applicable. But for India, it'll be, you have to work with insurance companies in India to provide you insurances. Yes.
Specifically, I don't know, but I don't know whether public and product liability insurance comes under that or not. Let me check it up and let you know.
That's a good thing to check out and keep handy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Manish Tomar has another question. It says, is RCP from IMIC equivalent to CP of OSIM? Since competent person, chartered professional in JORC code are two separate entities.
Well, no. Firstly, let me just clarify. As per the JORC CP is concerned, it is the membership of the OSIM is sufficient. Once you are dealing with, for example, other code, for example, an OSIM member signing off a 43-101 report, he or she has to be CP for the changes that happened in 2015 in 43-101 code. So that is taking that apart. Basically, essentially we are keeping the same, only one category, that is RCP. That's it. Now, whether that RCP would be qualified in the JORC, so for that the JORC code has to be amended, and they're in their RPO list. They must recognize as our RPO as one of the entrant, and then only we can sign off any JORC report being a member of NACRI.
Okay. Narendra Kavadia's question is similar to what we have answered already, and unless there is something else that you needed to ask, Narendraji.
No, it's fine. I got the answer. Thank you.
There is another question from Kanishka Datta. Shrikant, I think you should respond.
Kanishka Datta's question. Okay.
The RCP certification.
Oh yeah, the RCP comes tagged with the relevant area of specialization. No, it does not come with the relevant area of specialization. But when you sign off, you're signing off and you're stating what your experience is, what your education is, whether you are when you're signing off as an RCP, you're basically stating that you have the required education and experience to be signing off as an RCP for that particular project. Okay.
That too with a specific domain expertise will sign.
Exactly.
That's more important.
Okay. So, yeah.
It's few questions do arise in the mind when this question of signing as an RCP comes in. As has been well discussed, and we should not waste more time on it, that okay, as an RCP, you are taking care of one area of specialization, and for the areas you are not comfortable in, you have taken the help of others. That is understood. But as I understood from this entire discussion, there are basically three areas broadly on which the RCPs are getting the certifications. One would be exploration reporting, the other is resource reporting, and the other is reserve reporting. Is that correct, as I understood?
Well, not only that, Mr. Datta, these are the broad categories, and there are a couple of other points. One being the relevant experience in the style or nature of the mineralization, and also the nature of the activities that he or she has been undertaking, right? So for example, when I'm signing off, for example, a mineral resource estimation, the second consideration I have to bring in whether I have relevant 5 years of experience in the style of mineralization. For example, all my life I have been working, for example, in coal. On one fine morning, I cannot act as an RCP, for example, in diamond deposit.
That is well understood, Shamik. Mr. Shamik,
Right.
that is well understood.
Right. I'll come to your question then. Okay. Thirdly, that most importantly, it is not NACRI who is giving a certificate. It is the RCP who has to judge and declare. And it is a professional judgment that we are living, that whether I am competent person or I am competent enough to defend and defend in front of the peers or any of the questionnaire that would come to from this after reading this report. So there comes the professional judgment. For that, we have a guideline of 10 years of total experience and 5 years of experience in the relevant areas. Either it's come from the deposit style or the nature of the activities.
So the
I personally
certification is a
feel
blanket one, is it?
gave that last slide of an exercise to
yeah
do the same.
Perfect.
No, I just want to know the RCP certification, is it blanket for either a geologist or a mining engineer?
Yes,
Then
you're only
he
given.
decides what he can certify and what he cannot.
Okay, there are two issues here. Number one is that the certificate itself just says that you're a recognized competent person. Okay, the consent form and the documents that you're signing indicate what areas you are qualified to report on. Okay, so it's not, we cannot give a certificate saying RCP for mining. We give a certificate that RCP, and you are self-regulating yourself, making sure that you have the required qualification as per IMIC to sign off on that report.
Right, thanks. That is understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, we're just getting to 5 o'clock now. Is there any more questions?
I can just add one point here.
Sure.
Since earlier the question was asked, and people have not got out of the mindset of IBM GSI as yet, the concept of statutory reports. So it's important to say that India has been a closed country as far as mining is concerned for a number of years. And it has started opening up recently. Certain privatization has taken place. And transfer of mining leases were not so easy. So you can't trade mining leases. Now, today, with the auction of this auction route, the leases are transferable. So that means that they are tradable. But the companies, mining companies, have to be listed in stock exchange for trading. Now, for all these things, like what I had mentioned in the chat box earlier, when you want to woo the investors, private investors or companies to buy the assets or shares in the properties, then they need certain kind of a report where they can get confidence out of it. This particular IMIC is the whole concept of confidence in resources and reserves, which has already got established in Australia, in Canada, in Brazil, in Russia, and various countries. Now, India is poised for that. As far as government is concerned, this cannot be regulated by government. This has to be managed by a professional organization only, because government cannot take the responsibility of issuing a certificate for where the finances can be, what is the investment kind of thing, can be reported. It can only deal with statutory documents that are required, which is for mining plan, etc. Somehow this thinking process has not gone in as yet in some of the government departments. Some of them, like Niti Aayog, is very comfortable. They started looking at it. For example, the mining, although we use the word mining industry, mining actually is not categorized under industry, because in industry means, you can go, for example, you can go and get loans for mining equipment, but not on mining property, because the mineral property belongs to the government. The moment it is 50 years and it's tradable and transferable, then the asset value comes in. So this is what we had discussed, and Niti Aayog also is thinking in this direction. Just to give this comments, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Gunnar. That really clears a lot of questions. And several people have been asking the same thing also. What is the relevance of the resources and reserves made by government agencies? Okay, so this clarifies things a lot. Thank you. Okay.
And also just one last point, and also right now what the government is following is UNFC, and that is particularly for the reporting of mineral resources and reserves as inventory. Okay, and this is not recognized as a code internationally by many of the countries. So CRISCO, so that one of the reasons where IMIC has got into CRISCO approval is based on the materiality, transparency, and competency, which all the three are not existing in the current standards that are followed by the government for inventory reporting purposes. Thank you.
Correct. Okay. Any more questions? If there are no other questions, I'd just like to add a couple of things. I know that we had a lot of issues signing in today, and I hope that from next time we will not have those issues. Number one is that I'm removing the requirement for registration for all the questions for registration. So we will be able to register. We will still require to register every day for attendance purposes, but the process should become much simpler. And I'll put out a little brief about how we need to log in to this system. I think many of you would have already got it, but I'll still make a small how to document to help us with this. Okay, thank you very much for patiently listening to these presentations, and to the presenters, thanks a lot for the presentations that you've done and the questions and answers. Really, this participatory nature of this short course needs to go on, because that's how we will learn from each other. Okay. Thank you very much, and we will see you again on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.